I'm going to start recording right there. You hold up your little, look at the doorway. That's awesome.
There it is.
Hey, well, welcome everybody to Ascended World. This is Angela Coulter and
Sarah Sieg, Avignone.
Bringing you whatever is on the table for this week. Look at, and she's holding up her beautiful Lemurian crystal with that doorway. That's incredible. I love that. What a cool crystal that she got in Shasta, right? Wasn't it Shasta last year?
Yeah, it was Shasta. Not
last year, this year. Because who knows what years are anymore. So, start talking about that, the coat thing. What you're just talking about. Because there's a whole bunch of stuff that I want
to. I found myself, I guess on Sunday, looking at fallout is the best word I can come up with right now of stepping into that authenticity and honesty about where I am in my life and financially, and the impacts on my family, and how to move forward. And I kept feeling myself stepping into an energy that didn't feel congruent anymore. And it was almost like putting on a coat. And it was like I kept stepping into it, and it was like this flood of emotions would come in from perspective of allowing the circumstances of where I was to define me, to consume me, to override what I knew and felt to be the truth. And it was like taking a coat off, putting a coat on, taking a coat off, putting a coat on. And I was finally, in seeing it in those terms and in that definition, was able to finally let go of it. Even though I felt like I had done it over and over and over and over and over, I was really able to, once I was in that place of authenticity and integrity and authenticity, to be able to go, I don't need that coat anymore.
Well, and it's funny that, because like we were talking about this off before we started recording, and like, well, that leads right into the thing I had in mind to talk about. So that was perfect. What I was talking with a client about this morning earlier was this person who wants to, and she's done, and so this is somebody who is consciously working on herself and has just come such a huge long way and where she is anyhow. But so she said, well, what she wants to work on, because we're doing some core work right now. She's like, I really want to get down to why it is I can't seem to let go of this excess weight I've had. And she goes, and she said, and honestly, I've had it since I was like, for most of my life, right? And she's like, whether it's just chubby or heavy, like a back and forth, it'll deviate. She's like, but I've always felt like, I have this extra layer. And she's like, and so, standard that we talk about in energy stuff is, putting a shield on, right? Or protection.
Armor.
Stuff like that.
Right.
And there are other things, like as we become more conscious and we remember, higher vibrational existence, that our bodies actually will weight down because the DNA is set to balance us in the physical because of gravity and all that kind of stuff, right? So it is natural for many to gain weight when, as they're becoming more conscious and whatever. And eventually it equalizes out, typically. Sometimes it doesn't. But the thing is, we get so fixated on the weight,
right, that
we forget to look beyond what's underneath it, right? Then this is that whole topic about, like not stopping at the symptom, but going beyond, even beyond, like what, like, because she has looked at all of that other stuff, right? And she's like, and nothing. And I said, okay. So what came up this morning, which was really powerful. It just popped into my mind, and probably because I had just come out of meditation right before the session, so I was like really clear. But I said, so think about it. So if you've had this your entire life, right, where you felt like is this extra whatever, right? So for metaphorical purposes, let's say a coat. You've worn this coat your entire life, right? Like you said, so I said, when you brought that up, I was like, oh, look at this, it's perfect. And I said, so you have connected your identity with that coat, whether it's conscious or not.
Oh, absolutely.
It's become so comfortable for you to wear, right? So worn in, and yes, so that to be without the coat would feel naked, right?
Right.
Who am I without this coat? Like yeah, everybody knows me. Everybody knows me because of this coat, right?
They recognize me from my coat. Yeah.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I'm like, so think about all of this underlying ego stuff that's going on behind the scenes. It's going, oh, no, this is who we are. We can't let go of this coat. And I said, and yet we talk in consciousness about changing form, right? Evolving into crystalline, right? About like all this kind of stuff. And we have these physical things that are coming up, whether it's weight, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it's weight or infections or injury or illness or whatever. It's a resistance at the cellular level, at some level of us, to shifting. Most often it's to shifting into this more crystalline form, right? Because it's different than what we were originally programmed our bodies to be, right? So what I was getting was really key is for us to, first we got into a place of, first of all, being really comfortable knowing that no matter what, because I was like, well, think about this coat, right? So like if you put it in terms of the coat, it doesn't matter what that is. The coat can be weight, it can be your gender, it can be the color of your hair. What?
An illness.
An illness. Oh yeah, illness is big, right?
Yeah.
I've had this since I was a kid, all right? Or whatever. Diabetic, or blah, 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 blah. Who would I be without this? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
especially if it's inherited.
Yes. Yep.
Because then it's a familial obligation.
Yeah. So like, but if you take out that like pin for this lifetime, what if we look at multiple lifetimes, right? Multiple parts of the existence. We've taken all kinds of coats. We've worn all kinds of coats, right?
Right.
And it's like we have set defined periods of time where we say, okay, I'm going to be this coat. I'm going to be, but this is the thing. Listen to what I'm saying. Where I'm going to be this coat, but you're really not.
Right.
You're not the coat.
Right.
So the key is to shift our core egoic perspective to the essence of who I am versus my coat, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And so, we've talked about this when we get into energy work. Like when you get into energy work, I don't know, I see people by their energy more than I see them by their physicalities, right? Mm-hmm. So I found that I don't really see a lot of physical things that people consider like defective or whatever, because I see the energy above.
Right.
Yeah. Like I'll never forget one time I had a client, and I've talked about this. I've had a client once who was like sitting there and she was like talking about her self-esteem, and I'm looking at her as this beautiful divine being, because I'd known her and I'd seen her like gone through so much, and I said, well, what? And she's like, well, I'm sort of dumpy. I've never just been able to be like thinner than this. And this is funny because it's always because of women. This is like such an identity thing with women, right?
Right.
But then she goes, and this is somebody who I would never even think was heavy, right? And then she goes, yeah, and I always feel like when people meet me that they're only looking at the scar on my face. And I've known this woman for like 7 years at this point. I had never seen the scar on her face until that moment.
Wow.
And I looked at her and I said, until you just mentioned it, I have never seen it on your face. So it's funny because we shift, the ego shifts into this, I am what this is. I am this body. I am this person. I am this, person with a scar or this weight or with glasses or with in illness or with handicap or with, their list is endless, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of saying, I am my essence and everything around it is fluid and only serves me in the moment where it serves me.
Right.
And think about that energetically. That changes it so much.
Right.
So what we were focusing on, and I said, oh, well, thanks. I'm getting on with Sarah right after this so we can do our thing. Yay, this is a great topic. And of course it is, because you brought it up the same thing in a different way.
Exactly. Yep.
So I think what's really important is for us to remember the essence. What I wrote down was, remember the essence of who I am. And we can go beyond that, right? I'm worthy to remember how to, and allow myself to be the essence of who I am,
right.
First and foremost as my priority.
Right. Well, and and really think about what essence is, because it's all encompassing. It's not just, well, I'm healthy, or I'm, it's so consuming.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's just the whole. Yes, the whole.
Yeah, and allow it to be that consuming.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to limit it. Well, it's just this, or it's just this, or it's just this. Allow it to be all that it is.
Right. And what I said to my client was, so if we were sitting at a table and having this conversation right now, and I know you trust me, and and we're connected and everything else, and we've known each other for a while. I said, if I was sitting there, we were facing each other, and I literally reached behind me and pulled at the seam and just pulled off my entire, meat jacket, and you saw me as this completely, I then looked like an alien of some sort. Would you suddenly be afraid of me? Would you, how would you react? I said, many people would then suddenly go, I said, but I'm still me.
Right.
And then here we are, we're doing this session on the phone, so we're not facing each other. I could do that, and you would never even know. Right. I could be sitting here in a completely different form, but you're connected with me because you're not judging me based on what you're seeing.
Right.
Right? And you would never know. And it doesn't matter.
Right.
Which is why I love so much the connection out in oneness, how we connect with so many different beings. And sometimes I think it's even an advantage, because we always are like, oh, I want to see it's our being in the physical or whatever. But would you freak out and judge and be scared before you could ever allow yourself to connect?
Right. Right.
What if you connected first and then let them materialize?
That would probably be a safer plan.
So, and it's funny too that this has come up, because over the weekend, I texted you about this, that we were watching the Ancient Aliens show, right?
Right.
And I was watching this episode about alien abduction, and in the middle of I don't know why it hit me this way, I just busted out laughing in the middle of the in the episode, and I look at my husband and I said, I have the perfect last episode of this series. And he's like, what? And he looks at me like, what? I mean, it was because it just sort of hit me as random and hysterical. I said, so the last episode, Hairman, everybody knows who's watched the show knows who Hairman is, because it's the guy with the black hair thing.
Oh, yeah.
He's always sort of orangey, but his hair is just outrageous, right?
Right.
I'm like, Hairman is going to reach behind him and just peel off his skin to reveal he is, in fact, an alien.
That would be perfect.
By the way, I want credit if he hears this for thinking of that.
He's right.
But but that's the same thing. But the thing is, that's we put so much judgment at so many levels, right?
Yeah.
So we say judgment, and then we push away from it. But think about judgment in terms of how we perceive others.
Well, exactly. I mean, judgment is, even if it's something is or something isn't, that's a judgment.
Yeah. And so what I said to this person was like, so, okay, if this is, I'm feeling like what came up today was that it was just part of, the identity to shift, right? To get back to focusing on, I remember the essence of who I am. I'm worthy to, I remember how to allow myself to be that essence first and foremost and make that my priority in my entire existence, right?
Right.
I said, because when you do that, look at what we free ourselves up to do. We free ourselves up to change form, right? We want to talk about change. I said, what if you change into an eagle? I said, so you've gone through all of this body, judgment your entire life internally, right? I'm like, so what if you change into an eagle? Or a platypus? Or, I mean, would you see the beauty in that? Would you be afraid of it? Like,
Yeah.
how? What?
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm like, so it doesn't really matter what the weight is. And this is the thing, we get so focused on the weight, right? Culturally, that we never get beyond it. And it's like, well, it's such a on the surface kind of thing.
Well, and I mean, how more can you point that out is how, the sizes of clothing. People are obsessed where, I need to be a size 4, or I need to be this, or I need to get under, into the single digits or whatever. And it's like, you can go and you can buy the same size in the same brand, and it's not the same.
Right. Or 5 different brands with the same size are completely different fits.
Right. And, or you have something that's one size and you go 2 years later and it's like, oh, well, we've redone the sizes. And now instead of a 6, you're a 12. It's like, what?
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with your body. It has to do with something that is so external. I mean, how much more obvious is your clothing to being external, but yet you allow it to influence how you feel about yourself.
Right. Right. Because if you used to be a size 6 and then all of a sudden they change the sizes and now you're size 10 or 12, then what happens? You have all this self-shame and talk and judgment. And
it's like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
How did I let this happen?
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
And, I tell people all the time, and that's like, because they were like, oh, I want to do this. I have to do this. I'm going to. And we go and do these bad diets. We do all this stuff. And then, you lose the weight to find it again because, A, you haven't disconnected it from your identity, right? And number one, you've externalized your essence versus like stayed at the core of the seed of who you are. And B, what was my other thought on that? There was another one. Oh, well, you're just like when you stop the diet because you haven't changed anything underneath, it just comes back.
Well, or it's the diet is so unnatural,
yeah,
that you can't sustain it. And as soon as you go back to how your body naturally wants to consume things, you can't, unless something else has changed, like you said, you're not going to sustain that numeric weight loss, because that's really all it is. It has nothing to do with actually inches on your body, how you fit in your clothes. It's literally just a number on a scale.
Well, yeah. And how do you know how you can change that? Go to Mars. You're going to be a third of your weight there as soon as you get on the ground.
That's right. Or buy a different scale and it probably says something different.
Yeah. So yeah, and it's so funny because I literally, and I see people who are so conscious and they get so like, oh, they're doing like every diet of the week, or they're limiting they're taking away so many things out of their diet because they're like, oh, I'm a sensitivity to this. And I'm just like, do you realize you can change that? Right. And the thing is to look at is why you have the sensitivity and just shift that or become more balanced and harmonized within your body.
Right.
The way come into a place of love about yourself. Because when you shift to a place of love about yourself, your body will adapt and adjust and balance and harmonize naturally.
Right.
And either the things that you had before will become nothing of a distraction anymore, right? Or they'll just go away. Or sometimes, yeah, they do one and then the other, right?
Right.
But because our bodies, and something especially when you've had it since you were like, your entire life, it's a habit of the body. It's a habit of the cells.
Right. Yep.
Which we can change. So the essence, in fact, it's funny. I had a dream. I didn't tell you about this. I had a dream last week, right?
Yeah.
I always laugh because, I always have these dreams about those who passed on that I never had a like direct, connection with in my life, like especially like high profile people. And it's always interesting that they have these messages or we have these discussions or whatever. So last week was HW's turn, apparently, to visit. And I was like, oh, not somebody I ever particularly aligned with. It's not somebody I had really paid much attention to. I barely even knew he had passed away, except when I saw the flags half mast. I was like, what? What's going on? And then, but anyway, so I had this dream that I was like in an office building, and he's sitting in this conference room with glass, like a glass wall. And there are all these people around, and they're just like all panicky, and they're like whatever. And he sees me walking by, and he waves to me and like motions for me to come in. So I go in. I'm like, okay, recognize him before, I was like, okay. So we sit down. And as soon as I sit down, he looks at everybody else and he tells them to leave. Like he just wants to talk to me. And I was like, okay. So everybody leaves. And the funny thing was, I realized through the dream, he never spoke. So it was always telepathic. We communicated that way the entire dream, right?
Right.
And he was like, nobody understands that this is really what was it? Nobody understands this is really like what, I don't want to say what I want, but what I'm here for, or what I'm here, or what this is for, or what I'm a part of. Or it was just like something like that. And he's like, and I just have this one thing that needs to get tied up.
Yeah.
Do it. And I go, and he's like, and nobody seems to know how to do that. Nobody seems to know how to help me with that. And I'm like, well, what do you need? And I have this pad, suddenly have this pad sitting in front of me.
And I can take notes now.
That's right. So we're talking, it was almost like an event. So like in the dream, I was looking at it like an event, but it was really like an event. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like different kind of event. And I was like, okay. And I could see the whole thing and whatever. And I said, okay, we can take care of that. That's not a big deal. And he's like, oh, thank you so much. But the thing was, the whole interchange that we were having, like I said, number one, we never spoke. We sat across the table from each other, and it was literally, I connected with him and heard him. Number two, in the course of the conversation, like I was thinking, like in the beginning, right? Because in the beginning, I'm like, wow, this is so weird. Like, why would he want to talk to me? Like I have like no connection with him whatsoever. And then after that, it was like, oh, but then I started seeing his divine essence, like in the interchange.
Right.
And it was, oh God, what a great, passionate, loving person.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I don't know anything about him really. Very little about him. Only what we had in the press and stuff.
Right.
But then I was just like, and I could see his divine essence, and it wasn't anything he was when he was embodied here.
Right.
Like it was so far beyond that. And of course, because acknowledging that within ourselves, we can see that in everyone, even people who you disagree with and how they're packaged and what they're doing, right?
Right.
So what a sense of love and camaraderie that I had in that by the end of that dream, I was like, yeah, no problem, we can take care of that. And all I wanted to do was help him.
Oh, absolutely.
And
When you
so
connect on that level, it's almost like in the connection, you share that sense of the common goal to where, well, of course I would help you with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was funny because it was so simple to me, and I don't remember what it was, honestly, but it literally, we were like looking through details and all kinds of stuff. And as I walked out, like everybody else was like, well, I don't know how you're doing that. Like, how'd you get, like, how'd you get him to do it? And I was like, he called to me. I don't know.
Right.
It was fine, So, but it's funny because I guess that's part of what, I don't know, I guess I serve some kind of a intermediary purpose for some who passed over to help them complete stuff, right? And this always comes up in a dream.
Right.
Robin Williams, remember that actually came up in meditation and then over like several weeks, but
right.
But and things like that. But it was pretty beautiful. Like, and I've heard, like, I keep on forgetting to, like, I wrote about it in my journal just like yesterday. It was like several days back when I had this. And I talked to my client about that this morning. I'm like, because at some point I just realized, we're here, we're in this together. Like, this is
exactly.
And when we say that, we can recognize in each other that divine essence without caring what the package looks like.
And I think once we come to that place of that acceptance, it shifts it to where whether you have a 3D connection with that person or not on a routine basis, it's almost like the energies combine to where you've got more effort combined towards things. Mm-hmm. and objectives and resolutions than if you held back and kept yourself separate.
Right. And judged.
Right.
Well, this person is like this and this person,
Right.
And in the dream, it was funny because I'm like, when I sat down, I was just like I said, I was like, okay, so like he summoned me out of the hallway there. And I was like, well, this will be an interesting conversation, right? Because there's that initial judgment, right? Right. But at least, it was an observation. It was just that, okay, well, let's just see where this goes,
Right.
But when we do that, then it makes it a lot easier. So, we can't do that with others until we see that within ourselves.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because that you lose your point of connection.
Yeah.
Because it's why we are where we are, because we've lost that point of connection.
Yeah.
Or why we believe we are where we are.
Because we think we're the coat filled by a body instead of, right. Filled by an essence versus an essence with a coat on.
Right.
Whatever it is. So, and when we look at it from that perspective in a very generic standpoint, we're like, well, of course, that makes so much sense. And yet we still hold all those things, right?
Right.
So I'm like, so if we let go of the code, we just remember the essence and allow ourselves to be the essence. Because, and it's funny that this has come up, I guess, because I've been doing a lot of searching for into my own essence.
Oh, yeah.
In the last several weeks, especially.
Oh, yeah. Same here. Well, and realizing what aligns with that divine essence and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
That's more where I've been is what feeds that essence versus covers it up, disconnects it,
right,
separates it. Yeah, and that's where things have really started to flow, and it's allowed me to embody that, your judgment of where I am is about you, not me.
Well, and each of our journeys is our own, right?
Right.
The code we choose is for a particular reason. and as soon as we become, I mean, the thing is, as soon as we become aware of it, it's a matter of that we can change whatever we
Right.
want. And so part of that's part of what many are being guided, I think, right now to change themselves, change their situations. Oh, there's the yawns.
Yep. Something just shifted.
Yeah. Many are being guided to change a lot of things. And I think if we focus more on the core essence of who we are and less on what coats we're wearing, right?
Right.
If we were guided to just take the coat off and put another one on, then we wouldn't be so like, we'd be like, all right, that's a cool coat too, you know?
Yep.
So yeah, that feels really good. I can feel that all in the heart.
Oh yeah, that feels amazing. And so freeing and lighter and you know, straight jacket versus something form-fitting that stretches and moves with you.
Right. And changes color and form. I'll just like go all out, right?
Why not?
The coat of the Technicolor Dream Coat. Oh wait, somebody did that. Yeah, it can be anything.
Right.
So, and then we can also bask in the beauty of each version of what's around the essence.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that feels so really amazing.
Oh yeah, very empowering. I can see it almost as in it's allow the coat to be an amplifier of that essence versus
every facet of the essence, right?
Versus a dampening field on the essence.
Right.
Wow. That changes the whole dynamic.
Yeah, that feels great.
Yeah. I got to write that down.
I know. You know what? I'll get off, and we've talked about such meaty stuff, and I have like 2 lines written on in my notes.
I know.
Like, what was that? What did I mean? Yeah. Yeah, it's just so powerful. Because when we start looking at things like that, not only at ourselves but at others, is saying, oh my goodness, look at the texture that this person brings, this individual brings. Look at the meatiness and
the possibilities.
And the possibilities of this extra, element that this individual brings because of their essence, right?
It's almost like seeing the spark of that creative void in people.
Right. Right. And that, connecting that is the true earth grid, is what I'm getting. We talk about the new earth grids and all that kind of stuff. It's a big topic.
Yeah, and that came up in a dream for me, the new grid.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You said that.
Yeah.
And it feels like that's what the key is it's connecting the essence.
Yep. Yeah, and that's where it draws I hate to say power, almost draws
yes. Oh my God. Yeah, I just had a whole big vision on that. As you're saying that, I'm like, oh, there's a big download.
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
Why some of us get drawn to go physically to certain points on the grid, quote unquote, right?
Yeah.
Is because then we allow our essence to reconnect into the whole, right? Which powers it.
Right.
Right. Instead of holding it. So, oh yeah. And then we're connected in that grid all the time.
Right.
We allow ourselves to do that again.
Yeah, and that feels amazing. I know that I used to have this crystal on my nightstand every night. And one night when I couldn't sleep, I pulled it off my nightstand and was holding it. And it gets really cold until I've held it for a while. And then it's like its own source of heat. It's really fascinating. And then I fell back asleep and woke up and had been sleeping with it. And it's like every night since then, it's like, yep, you're coming to bed.
The best pillow ever.
It's just such an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
And it's so, it's like sleeping at home. You know, they say you can't go home again, but it's like, feels like home.
Well, and that's so things that we connect with from the non-physical, right? All connect with our essence. They don't connect with our bodies.
Right, right.
The crystalline energy, right? The crystalline consciousness,
Yep.
all that kind of stuff. It has nothing to do with our physicality.
Right.
And by the way, in terms of like that context of the weight, because I know some people will look and be like, well, what did that resolve with? When we get to what I could see is when we get to that place where we're purely allowing ourselves to be the essence as our core, and everything else is optional because it's just facets of how we express that essence, right?
Right.
Then we become completely fluid to form. We become completely fluid to what we present here, right? So
Absolutely.
we could change, weights like that. We could change hair color, eye color, you know, uh, body form. I could become an eagle. I could become whatever, if it serves the essence of that moment, of, where I am, what I'm doing at that moment. And so freeing, right? To say, or I could just be a big orb.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so all of that.
Nice. All of that.
Nice little bow.
Right.
All right, I think we're good. You ready?
Oh, absolutely.
I can already sort of feel the heart stuff going, wow, that's awesome.
Right.
All right, so remembering that, allowing ourselves to remember that at the core, being our essence, actually just being core from our essence, like, and having everything come from that. That we're worthy to, and how do we allow ourselves to be that and know that and remember that everything comes from the essence, not the other, versus the, I don't like putting not in there, versus, just everything comes from that. Flying, not the other way around.
Right.
All right, let's go. And everything else attached to it.
Right. That was quite vibrational.
Yes, your Obi chirping in the background.
Yeah.
He's sitting over there. See him in the back.
Yep, I do.
He comes in like 2 minutes, as always, right? And it doesn't even matter. It's on a different day, a different time. He comes in, he starts nipping on my leg to be like, hey, I'm here. And I'm like, no, I know. Oh, so now he runs out. What was that?
I'm here to receive.
Yeah. That was really amazing.
Yeah.
Took a little while to shift in the beginning, but once it shifted, it was just like this exponential opening and opening and opening and opening. And all of a sudden I could just feel this connection through everything that was in a different way. Like, of course, we're, the always connected thing, but it was just like feeling through it from a different place. It was really core.
It felt so sparkly to me. That's the only word I can come up with.
That's a good one, yeah.
It's sparkly. I mean, it was allowing that sparkle from the essence to come through,
yeah,
no matter what. And I kept seeing myself, and I've seen this before, and I don't remember when or where or why, just unzipping and stepping out and unzipping and stepping out. And it was like the what I was stepping out of would get thinner and more transparent with every one I stepped out of. And it was like until they were all gone. And it was almost like I would look down and not recognize my form after so many times of doing that. Right. And it was like, does that even really matter?
It doesn't. Well, this will be a beautiful one to see how it unfolds, because it's I've been focusing on finding, for me, because different elements of who and what I am and all that, like that we've been going back and forth about in the past week.
Right.
Plus, like, just some core, I don't even have words. It's just,
yeah.
It'll be nice to see how that sits out now.
Right. I'd say settle in, but I don't think that's what it's going to do. I think it's going to settle out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it feels like. Oh, it just feels incredible.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great one for this week, as they all are. I can't say one is not. No. They're always awesome and different in their own way. So everybody's still on that, and we will see you next time on Ascended World. This is Angela Coulter and
Sieg, Avignone.
Thank you for listening.
Goodbye.